So the Walt Disney Company is paying $43 million to settle a gender-related class action lawsuit. $43 million is nothing considering how much Moana 2 just opened. That's like a quarter of what they just made in one weekend for Moana 2. But in any case, that's a lot of money, especially for a settlement like this. This is a class action lawsuit originally filed back in 2019 by Disney staffers LaRonda Rasmussen and Karen Moore. Specifically, the former, Rasmussen, basically there's this issue related to, they basically were claiming that women were not being paid as much as their male counterparts for the same work. Rasmussen notes, explained that she got like a $25,000 raise after she complained about it. And even with the raise, she was still making less than the male staffers that had the same job title as her. So again, it just started with those two. It eventually expanded to include, I think, something like 9,000 female staffers. Again, these are only California employees, I believe. These are non-union salaried employees that worked at Disney's theme parks, their cruise ships, film and TV studios like ABC, but not some other ones like ESPN or other like subsidiaries. And again, they claim that women were being paid less for the same work, which of course is a big no-no. Variety notes that the salaries for these female employees were based on their salary that they had with their previous employer, which is, like a weird way to do that. That seems just like a way of being like, we'll hire out people who are not as advanced in their career so we can pay them less. I don't know. That seems weird. And a study commissioned by the plaintiffs, so the women, found one category, because there's a bunch of different categories of workers, right? So you kind of have to look at it like department by department, job by position by position. But the study that was commissioned found that one particular category of the female workers made 2% less than their male counterparts. Now, 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but, if you're talking about, a 5-figure, 6-figure annual salary, especially one of the biggest companies in the world, 2% is a lot of money. I think the point here is that it should be 0%, right? In a perfect world, everyone's getting paid the same for the same work. Of course, there's some variability in terms of experience and what the jobs actually entail, right? But in a perfect world, everything would be even Steven. The lawsuit, they originally were seeking $300 million. So, $43 million is still is a far cry from that, but it's better than zero. And I got a quote here from their lawyer, Lori Andrus, saying, quote, "I strongly commend Ms. Rasmussen's Musin and the women who brought this discrimination suit against Disney, one of the largest entertainment companies in the world. They risked their careers to raise pay disparity at Disney. I'm also encouraged that Disney has committed to run annual pay equity reviews to further promote pay equity. I believe this will help strengthen the company and its brand as a key employer and contributor to California's economy," end quote. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this story is something I've talked about a lot on this channel, and it's that Disney and a lot of media companies that purport to be very liberal or progressive, when you really look down, when you actually look inside and look at the numbers and look at, their actual practices, maybe they're not all that as progressive as they would like to seem, right? They tried to delay this trial. It was going to be set for May of this upcoming year. Their argument was that each woman, this shouldn't be a class action lawsuit, that each individual female employee needs to bring their own case. The judge did not buy this argument, which is what led to this settlement, right? And their lawyer, Andrus, even said, quote, "Disney's argument is that this woman was paid less for this reason, that woman was paid less for that reason, and her over there, well, she was paid less for yet another reason. They can't possibly think that they're going to convince a jury that every woman at Disney deserved lower pay," end quote. So that's a really good point, right? Where they want it to all be split up because then, they make it about case-by-case situations rather than like a systemic problem, right? And that's what they were doing. They were systemically and systematically paying women less. So ultimately, especially once the judge didn't really buy their argument, Disney decided they'd just rather settle than drag this thing out because obviously it'd be bad publicity, upon the news of the settlement, of course, Disney put out a very, very neutral statement just saying, quote, "We have always been committed to paying our employees fairly and have demonstrated that commitment throughout this case, and we are pleased to have resolved this matter," end quote. Translation, okay, whatever, we're ready to put this behind us. And like, you know, I was saying earlier, in addition to the settlement, they're also going to hire like a labor economist to study like the pay equity at the company. So not only was Disney doing this shady stuff that some would say is maybe sexist, if you will, not very progressive, they were trying to get out of it. They were doubling down on it and saying like, no, like we had our reasons. Let's just go case by case and we'll explain the reasons, blah, 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 blah. And this is something, like I said, I've talked about on this channel a lot. Specifically about Disney especially, that ultimately the Walt Disney Company is a corporation first and foremost. It doesn't matter if they change their logo in June to a rainbow for Pride. It doesn't matter if they, you know, have a big movie with like a black lead character. And I'm saying this as a progressive. I'm not coming at this from the right. I'm coming at this from the left. That ultimately social values or you know, social justice, those are secondary to the bottom line. They will embrace the gay community. They will embrace the black community. They will embrace women if they think it will make them money. So that, again, that's how you have films with token people of color. And oftentimes they only do that for the films where they're like, this film might not even work out, so it's okay if we take a chance on diversifying the cast, so to speak, right? And of course, also just like in terms of economic issues, right? I did a whole video a couple months ago about the poor working conditions at Pixar. So you would think that this very liberal, Democrat, progressive company would care a little bit more about its workers, but where in reality they were being crunched and being pushed to the brink and pushed to the limit, because ultimately money is what drives everything, and value and any values they have are subservient to that, and the values can change on a dime. Though I don't want to put too much blame on Disney, because again, I don't think this was Bob Iger or any other executive going like, let's pay the women less, right? I don't think it was as explicit or conscious, right? What the issue with this, as is the issue with most forms of oppression or discrimination, is that it is unconscious and often passive, that it's built into the system, and requires energy, right? If you look in science terms, it requires energy. The systems tends to entropy, and in this case, the entropy is discrimination. Men in these kind of systems and situations just naturally end up getting paid more. Because there's, again, an implicit bias that you might have someone with the same qualifications, but then it'll seem like the man's more qualified, for reasons that even the person deciding can't explain, and the answer is because like they're more used to the idea of a man having more responsibility and power. But then also another issue, and this is not Disney's fault, is because of the years of institutional discrimination and preference for men, there's a lot more experienced men than women, because men have had more time to be part of the system and reap the benefits. So you can have a company like Disney going, well, look, like the man is getting paid more because he's more qualified. But you have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, but why is he more qualified? What factors led to for us to arrive at this point, where you have over almost 9,000 women who are all being paid less than the men with the same title, right? That's where data and statistics are really valuable, because it's like that tells a story, the way that the case by case obfuscates, and it obfuscates it in a way that Disney wants to obfuscate it. They don't want you to see that full picture. So all of this to say, we've come so far, but we, as the bonus song in the Hairspray movie credits, we've come so far, got so far to go, right? Because, I said, what did I say? The percent difference was like 2%. 50 years ago, 50 years ago, I don't even know if there would be a percent, because you wouldn't have a lot of women with the same job title, right? So we've made huge, huge strides as a culture and society and a civilization. And this is across every industry. But it doesn't mean the fight is over, right? It's going to still take decades upon decades to unlearn these biases. And not only unlearn them on an individual level, but actively work to dismantle them on a systemic level. So all the power to them. Let's do a little math here. $43 million divided by 9,000 women. I think it might be different per woman. Let's just say everyone gets the same amount. You're looking at about almost $5,000. That's a good little chunk of change, though I'm sure it would be better. It's money that they would rather to not be getting because of the reason why they're getting it. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.